Hello everyone, my name is Jose Avalos. I'm an associate level designer community at Avalanche Software, and in the following tutorial we will see how to operate with Logic Gates, which is a cool new creativity toy we have put in this Infinity 2.0. If you remember, in this Infinity, if you wanted to do conditional behavior, like say, if you had collected an item when you reach a certain point in the level, you would get a treasure, or otherwise there would be enemies. We had to place power switches and basically hack that behavior. So we noticed that at Avalanche, and as a result we put a pure logic based toy that performs that exact same behavior without having to put, power switches. And that is called the Logic Gate. The Logic Gate, I get it by going to the ribbon, and it is in Creativi-toys. And this is the Logic Gate. The Logic Gate, as you can see, looks like a door. So, the way this door works is that every time a Creativity toy sends an input to this Logic Gate, the Logic Gate will check if it's open or if it's closed. If the Logic Gate is open, it will do an action called output. Otherwise, if the gate is closed and a Creativity toy sends an input to it, it will create another action called input block. So, let's test it out. We're gonna test it out by sending an input to the Logic Gate, which for that we're gonna be using triggers, our old favorites. So we will connect it by having an action that every time you step on the Logic Gate, it's gonna send an input. And let's say that if the gate is open and we send an input to it, the Logic Gate will do an output, and it will say throw fireworks using party cannons, and it will also make the players celebrate. By this we are using another new creativity toy called Action Enforcer. So it's right here. So Logic Gate, new logic connection, output. This is when you send an input to the Logic Gate and the gate is open. Open and close is when you tell specifically the door to close or open. So, but the one we're interested right now is output. So we connect the output to, say, celebrate, and we're gonna say all the players. And if we step on it, we'll see that Donald will celebrate. And this is because when you place a Logic Gate in the level, just like that, the Logic Gates by default are open. So every time you send an input to the Logic Gate will do an output, which in this case is celebrating. Yeah! Hooray, I'm Super Donald!
Super Donald!
But now let's do it a little bit more interesting. Let's say that right now we can switch between opening and closing a door. So how do we do that? First, we're gonna need two more triggers, one for opening the door, which is this one right here, and one for closing the door. Sorry if it takes a little bit. Autosave. So this one right here, same action when we step on it, stepped on player any, and we'll connect it to the Logic Gate. In this case, it's gonna be open. And same thing here, but instead of opening the door, we're gonna be closing it. So if I step on this, now I close the Logic Gate, so if I send an input, Donald's not gonna be celebrating anymore. So that is the behavior that we expected. But instead, if we open the door again and we send an input, it's gonna do the output and Donald celebrates. So let's say that once, if the door is closed and we send an input to it, we generate an enemy. So for this, we're going to be using an enemy generator, which will spawn an Omni Droid or whatever enemy, it doesn't really matter, to the input block. Input block is when you send an input to the Logic Gate and the Logic Gate is closed. So, input blocked, and we will do Toy Box Soldier of Clubs custom. Okay, that one sounds fun enough. So, the gate is open right now because Donald is celebrating. I knew I could do it. Yeah, I know you can. So now let's close the door, and let's see what happens. Oh, it spawns an enemy. So let's defeat it. But what happens now if I want something more interesting? Let's say that by default, when you start the level, you make the gate closed. So whenever you step on it, the enemy is spawned. But what if after the enemy is defeated, we make Donald celebrate? One way of doing this would be like hooking up directly, enemy defeated to the action enforcer. But since the action enforcer is already linked to the logic gate via the output action, what we're going to do instead is, when the enemy is defeated, open the logic gate, and once the logic gate is open, send an input back to it, and which will do an output action, which will make the player celebrate. So, let's do that. New logic connection. When the enemy is defeated, we open the gate. And as a way of showing that the gate is open now, you know what? It won't be even be necessary. Let's just close the gate. Spawn the enemy. Well, let's defeat the enemy. So now the gate is open, because if I step in here, Donald will celebrate. But what if I want to celebrate automatically? For that, now that we know that after defeating the enemy the gate is open, we will have to send an input back to it. So let's try to do that. New logic connection when the gate is opened, and let's try to say, oh, I can't do a logic connection between a Creativi-toy and itself, and that is something by default that a behavior we have done in the game, so we will need an intermediate toy. So let's bring it up. The toy we're gonna bring, it's called time delayer. The time delayer is basically that after I am called, wait a couple of seconds, which is defined by the properties, and then do whatever action needs to be done, or whatever action you tell me to. So the time delayer right here. So when new logic connection and when the gate is opened, we will start this delay, which, if you can see by the properties of it, is 1 second, which is more than enough. When the delay is completed, we will send an input to this logic gate, and we will celebrate. So let's try it out. Oh, and well, and you can see after defeating the enemy, I celebrate immediately. So that's one basic use of the logic gates. And also another way that this is good is that it is scalable, because what happens if not just celebrating but also sent, the party cannons? Well, I mean, in the Infinity Point 1, we would have had to hook up the enemy generator defeated to also the party cannons in addition to the toy, which isn't so bad by itself, but if we have 20, then it's gonna be difficult. But instead, if we use, say, output action, and we connect it to fireworks, and same thing with the other one, let's open this gate, and it will do the fireworks and celebrate. And why are we doing when we open the gate? We do it because after opening the gate, we send a delayer that sends the input back. But now let's close it and see if we send an input to the gate. Alright, it's sending an enemy. Oh, my bad. We see fireworks and Donald celebrates. So instead of doing many individual connections, we just did a few more, and we here at the logic gate, and we ensure that this is working properly. So as you can see, logic gates are also really good for concentrated a lot of functionality, because what happens if, say, instead of just doing it in one trigger, we have 20? I know, it's a pain in the butt, right, to hook up all these logic connections to each and every one of the Creativi-toys that we have in here, to the enemy generator, the party cannons, and the action enforcer. What we need to do instead is just put a trigger when we step on any player, we just send an input. So if we step on this trigger, it will have the exact same behavior as this one. So let's try it out. The gate is open, so we should be celebrating.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Exactly what it is. And if we do it again with this other one right here, stepped on, player, any. So step on it, again, we have the fireworks and celebrate. So it can be used to link many Creativi-toys to do the same exact logic behavior, but without doing those individual connections one by one. We just connect them all to the Logic Gate, and the Logic Gate will do it just fine. So if it works for one Creativi-toy, for this trigger, it will work for all of them. That concludes the basic tutorial on Logic Gates. I hope this has been useful to you. If you have any questions, please let us know in the comments. And I hope you also get to watch the intermediate and advanced tutorials, because we're going to be seeing advanced techniques like infinitely respawning enemies or color-based puzzles. So if you step on a block, it will switch to one color, but if you step on it again, it switches to another one. And I hope you have enjoyed it, and have a great day.